One of you, Gergely, Gregory in Hungarian, I'm pretty sure, wrote this comment. And it's a really good question and an offer for a video to make. What are the local administrative units in Breton, the Breton language, and what do they mean? Because I made a video like this about the Welsh language a while back. I'll put a link down below to that. But it's not straightforward as Gergely. I like the Hungarian language, don't hate on me for that. But he said, can you make it for Breton? The issue with that is the history of Brittany and the history of Wales in terms of their administration from the government are very different. So different it's difficult to even comprehend unless you read a lot, but basically Wales was conquered piecemeal over a period of 200 years, okay? And then administrated in kind of two parts, marcher lordships and the principality. And then that was abolished with acts of union, with the Reformation and so on. Brittany, however, was an independent unified kingdom. And then after it used basically French to liberate itself from Vikings, the French were like, well, because you needed our help to liberate yourselves, you're going to be a duchy now rather than a kingdom, and we have kind of partial sovereignty over you, right? And from this point there were traditional counties, 9 counties in Brittany. However, the revolution, the French Revolution, I'm not a fan of it. It was destructive, and the consequences, France is still yet to liberate itself from the wrongs of it. Okay, there were goods in it, but there were bads in it too. One of them being that minority languages and nations within the state of France, they don't exist legally, basically. And departments were set up. And Brittany was split into 5 different departments. 4 today, because of the French Republic kept the Nazi German divisions of Brittany in order to weaken Breton identity. So the Breton administration region has 4 units, with part of it in another, basically, provincial authority. Anyway, so Gergely, that was a really good idea. For all of you who don't know me, I'm Benjamin. Thank you for tuning in, and we're going to get through those now, first with those departments, and then the 9 traditional counties of Brittany. Let's go. The first of these departments, up north, Côte d'Armor. And in Breton, don't quote my pronunciation, but I'm gonna give it a go. Ido and Arvor. Ido and Arvor. Now, you might notice this is quite different. So let me break that down for you. Ido means cliff or high land. An Arvor, the coast. In Welsh, this is direct translation. Alldair Arfordir. Alldair Arfordir. The hills of the coast. So relatively straightforward. This is also called Côte du Nord, in French. The next one, Finisterre, which comes from Latin Finisterrae, end of the world. In Breton, pen or bed. In Welsh that would be pen a byd, but in Cornwall there is a direct place name that is comparable, pen and Las, at the end of Cornwall, pen and Las. And in Welsh you also get Penfro, headland area, the area at the end, the realm of the end. The next one is actually the name of two rivers, Il Evilan, and in Breton, Il Haguilan. There's not that much difference between the Breton and the French because these are river names, but what matters here is the gwa, the beginning. If this were translated into Welsh, Welsh naturally attaches gwa to the beginning of words too. Il Aguilan is what I put there, because gwi in Welsh it symbolizes water. Vilain is probably from a Gaulish river's deity name, Vicinonia, perhaps, but we don't know. Next one, Morbihan. In French they would ditch the H, Morbihan. This would be very straightforward to translate into Welsh, little ocean or little sea, Morbihan. This is very straightforward, that one. The next one, Loire Atlantique, in French. Loire of the Atlantic. The Loire is a river. Liger Atlantel, in Breton. And this word liger is interesting, because it's a very old river name. Compare Avon Lluchwr in Welsh. Lluchwr. It's unclear what this river name means. It could be related very distantly to llachar, brightness, but it could also mean something to do with sediment at the bottom, the mud. But I tend to think it's related to the light opening up. This is clearly Latin, which has distorted the Celtic, just like Avon Lluchwr comes from Laconum, a Roman camp along the river. But this is just an educated guess on my part. Let's move on to the 9 traditional counties of Brittany. The first one, Bro-Dreger. Now each of these original counties, they have this bro attached to the beginning. This causes a mutation. It would be Treger, and often it is just Treger, which makes me at once think of places in both Cornwall and Wales. Cornwall and Wales aside for a moment with their related languages, I need to note that there's no agreement on what this name means generally. It could mean 3 choirs, or 3 groups. There's even writings about there being 3 rocks. I've never been there myself, so I can't say. This name probably comes out of something even older. But as for what this makes me think of personally, it takes my mind immediately to Cornwall and Wales, and names that we have. So in Cornwall, Tregaire, the town or village of the fort, the Iron Age Hill Fort, and in Sir Vanwy in Wales, Tregair, the town of the fort, the old stronghold. So Tregair here is in this same tradition, town of the fort or stronghold. If any of you are experts on the Breton language, let me know if I'm wrong, but with my Welsh, which is very closely related, that's what I get, and it tells me that there would be Iron Age hill forts in the area. Bro Cernev. In French, Cornouaille. Very much like Cornwall. It's the same root in French, combining corn from Celtic, horn, with the Wallace, stranger or foreigner ending. And Cerno, the Cornish word for Cornwall. The next one, Broleon, Some people think this is to do with lions, but I don't see any evidence for that. It's probably to do with the Roman legions who were stationed in the area. Llyn in Welsh, Légion in French, Légion, I'm guessing that's how you pronounce that in Breton. It's probably just a reference to a Roman legion or a group of them that were stationed in the far west of the peninsula to protect trade and sea routes. I need to also mention a guy named Saint Paul Aurelianus, who was a Welshman. A lot of Welshmen seem to have gone down there and started things. The first bishop of Lyon was a Welshman, likely from Morgannwg, which was a powerhouse in early Christianity. I don't think that I keep getting his name wrong pronouncing-wise, Aurelianus. I don't think that Paul Aurelianus, that's such a hard name for me to say. I don't think that this guy's name gave Lyon. But it's possible. I mean, he was the first bishop of Lyon. So who knows? The next one illuminates a bit about the language. Bros and brieg. And the egg ending, or ek, this is an adjective form. This is a descriptive form. In Welsh, this would be briog, describing this saint as a man of renown and fame. And Saint Briog, it's worth mentioning, is from Wales, Ceredigion. There was a lot of going back and forth in the early medieval times between Brittany and Wales. Pays de Saint-Brieuc. The French just kind of butcher the Breton names, but yeah, next one. The next one, this is debatable. Bro Wened, also called Bro Eric, from Warach, an early name of a king who ruled over the area. But Bro Wened comes from Gwynedd. This is probably from the tribe of the Veneti. We're not entirely sure, it is debatable, but it looks like so. And in French, Veneti. This seems to come from Gaulish unatoi, meaning the kinfolk ones or the friendly ones, probably a collection of tribes, which if so would make it related directly to Gwynedd here in Wales, which means a collection of tribal peoples. That's interesting. And that weni is a common root across Celtic languages to mean a tribal group. Bro Neoned. That's not a mutation, it's Neoned. Compare this with Welsh Nant, means a brook, a stream, so that's straightforward. But you notice the French here, Nant. Both this and Neoned are from Nanetes, a Gaulish tribe, which probably meant people of the river. So people of the river, which makes sense if these people were fishermen and tradesmen in the islands and rivers of Brittany. Brozol, which this is an interesting mutation that I don't find in Welsh. It's from dol. Brodol, it would be without the mutation. Dol means a low and fertile place, which I can see how that's very easily connected to Welsh. Dol means a meadow, a very grassy, you could think of it as fertile, but just a meadow basically. Not difficult, that one. That was nice to get a straightforward one after the last two, and before the next two. Bro Sant Malo. In Welsh this would be malo sant. It's interesting in my opinion that they put the sant before. French have this CL sound. We know this saint came from Morgannwg in Wales today, but we are unclear on what his name means. If he is Welsh, and both the French and the Latin have this CL sound, it makes sense to me that his name in Welsh was some type of ch, or ch, ul combination. So I propose his name comes from mach lle, meaning a compound of mach, meaning a sponsor of baptisms, and lle, which is the original Welsh word for light or brightness, which would naturally lose the double L into one L from ll to ul after being placed after mach. So malo could mean he who sponsors baptisms into brightness, or he who baptisms into light. You know, if he's a saint, that makes sense. It's religious, right? Sensible for those early times when light was much more valued than today. Brorozon, Ren in French, Ren. From Latinized Gaulish redones, for the local tribe, meaning horse drivers or chariot riders. In earlier Welsh, this would have become gorwyddwys, horse people. So that's what we're looking at here, a tribe of people that were famous for their dealings with horses and wheeled chariots. I can think of two cognates. Gorwydd, horse in Middle Welsh, we have a different word today, and rwydd, meaning easy, but this used to mean swift and fast. You see what I mean? So the words have changed over time, but I can kind of see where it comes from. And maybe it came from just riding horses. People riding horses being swift, and that was easier than walking up the mountain, you know? As you see from Gergier's comment, sometimes I take your feedback aboard and make a video based on what you would like. So if you've got an idea, let me know. I may make a video on it at some point. And if you like this video, tap the like button. Don't forget to subscribe, and thank you to my Patreons on the screen now.